Heath not here?
We know it's quiet.
You know we care deeply about one another. We just like to have fun. Have July statistics, and boy, all the way back to 08. 1,531 calls for service, 162 reports, 48 arrests, 38 accidents, 101 citations. You're like,
Excuse me. He's not going to be here if you want to sit there.
under false alarms, we had 38 total, and 35 of those 38 were commercial. Overtime, it just gets better and better, Mayor. $11,777 for the month, and we're at $88,000 for the year. I don't know how we do that.
90,000 last year.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're not taking vacations. What's going on?
No, it's the chief. He
Oh, is that right?
yeah. He has a lot of influence.
I understand.
Actually, it's because they're getting younger and younger, and they have less seniority.
Less time, yeah.
The Mopar Super Cruise went well. I think the rain probably dampened things both nights just a little bit. We did manage to get more participants and spectators to stay south, but it was just about as busy as always up around Southgate. I talked with Jim Layton, the track manager, and attendance for the Mopar Nationals was down quite a bit, but the owner of Mopar Nationals came again this year, and it was contract time, and they sealed the deal Saturday night for another 3 years, so they're not going anywhere else soon. We did have, it's not reported in the papers, I'm surprised, we had a 17-year-old, shortly after it stopped raining, the asphalt was still wet. He was down here by south of Wonder Bread, was doing a burnout. It's probably the only way he could do it was on a rainy, wet pavement. But,
the red pickup truck?
Yeah. Chevrolet.
Oh yeah.
Not a Mopar.
That would have never happened on a Dodge.
But he got it sideways, got it straightened up, and decided to go after it again, and did about a 360 spin and hit a 17-year-old girl standing on the side of the road. Fortunately, she was just grazed, knocked her down, and didn't need medical attention. The squad looked at her. Of course, your guys are out here in the front. Anyway, which worked out pretty good. Slows everybody down. And firefighters are expendable, so just put them right in the middle of the road.
Can you turn that part volume up?
Oh, we've got it good.
So,
Chief Shepherd commenting on our firefighters.
yeah, brand X cars. Anyway, other than that, no arrests. We wrote 4 citations for both nights, 4 total. And we did have liquor agents here, and they did cite one of our local establishments for a violation of their license. And lastly, I have a legislative request asking to appropriate $2,000 from within the general fund and transferring to our office supplies, and you put in the comments section. ink cartridges. They're killing us. The price of ink cartridges and we have so many printers and different types of printers, but we simply don't have enough to make it to the end of the year. So I think there's $500 left in that account.
Have you tried the refills on the ink cartridges? These are
Yeah.
the HP liquid ink.
Yeah, I think we
Jets,
have.
'Cause I know they moved that business. To my knowledge, you're still running it out of North 21st Street. That used to be
The one
down
over here.
I guess our the one that we use for our leads computer in the radio room is the worst culprit. Of course, it does most of the most printing as well. So. And it takes some kind of special
ink.
drum
Yeah.
deal on a cartridge.
No, I changed from an inkjet that you were good for about 300 black prints to a laser, and cartridges are about twice, but you get 3,000 prints out of a cartridge versus 300. So it was a cost savings to go that route.
Or does everybody just do their own?
Jenna usually will place supply orders for the office side. I don't think she does for the police side.
No.
Does Wanda handle that?
Right, and she's a good shopper. She looks.
Is there any way that, like, consolidate all this? You know, go with one and order, and maybe
I
in
don't know
bulk we
that
might
you
get a better
I don't know
deal.
that you get much in the price deal if we're buying
We-
5
we
cartridges
tried.
as opposed to 2.
Okay.
You know, we had that one guy that brought in kind of a pay-as-you-go system. He'd bring them in a mass quantity, and then you sign them out over here and take them. That wasn't working out for us for some reason. We have so many different printers.
That's why the printers are so cheap. 'Cause
Yeah.
they're gonna get you on the ink.
Yeah.
Sure.
Buy a printer so they'll go away.
Yeah.
You buy a new printer with ink, then you can't ink cartridge. They're on sale. Right when we go back to school, specials.
The laser target worked out good for me, and
Yeah.
I don't think you can
get
buy
a lot better
cartridge.
bang for the buck.
Yeah. And unless there's any questions, that's all I have.
Question for you.
The gentleman at the end of the table.
You said you had 4 citations and stuff. Was one of them for the kid that hit the girl, the driver that?
Yeah, that would include that one.
Okay.
How old was that driver?
17. And his dad was in the car with her truck, I mean. They're from Hebron.
Is it double fines because it
No
wasn't a
saying.
Mopar vehicle?
What's that?
Is it double fines because it wasn't a Mopar vehicle? You know, like,
No,
like
I
double
was-
fines
I
in the
was
construction zone,
glad it
double
wasn't a
fines in a
Mopar.
Mopar, right?
It could have been a Chrysler Sebring. And if somebody, the foes found out it was a Mopar, they would have made an issue out of it.
Is that a 4 for each of the 2 nights? Is that
Way
less
down.
than normal?
Way
That's
less.
what I thought. Is there a reason for that?
I
That you
think
can think of?
I think now that's only our agency. We haven't. We've asked the other agencies if they did issue citations to report back to us.
Okay.
But usually we write around 15.
Okay.
One third could be stretched out. Wasn't so confident.
Yeah, some of the officers, I had some of the officers liked the way it was stretched out, and some felt the opposite. I was pretty much stationary all night, so I didn't get a good reading on it myself.
You can see a lot of the rubber from up to the
Yeah.
south gate all the way to this way.
Well, we had a lot of help, and the Newark County Highway Patrol, Buckeye Lake, Union Township. So
Did it
Yeah, basically, you know, on Saturday, no one gets Saturday off. What we did for Friday is just not allow any casual leave for those already assigned to work. And I think we had the 9 o'clock cars come in at 7, so we were okay.
The liquor thing, was that the drive-through?
Yes.
I wonder, cause I saw they had it fenced off and everything, and I said, I said, they got a liquor license to sell to go, but not to sell and consume on premises, and I
Well,
wonder if that was the.
That's
the
what I
deal.
thought too.
Yeah.
But I talked to Sue Cook. You might know her. Her mom used to work here. Anyway, she's a regional director and came up by herself. But I talked to her Friday night, and I told her about how the little setup they had down there. And so before she came up, she checked to see what kind of license they have. And they do have an on-premise consumption.
Oh, they did?
Now, what I didn't know, you know, ever since I've been a lieutenant, I haven't done police work, so. What I didn't know was that if you have an on-premise consumption, you have to have the facility set up for it. And so, just to tell you the little story, she walks, it's a female, of course, she goes in, buys one beer, and pops it open, said, you know, where can I drink this? And the guy said, well, you can go out there and sit with the other ones if you want, or whatever you want to do. And then she badged it and said, where are your, where's your area for consumption? Where's your seat and tables? And he showed her one seat and one table. And the seat was not beside the table. So they were in violation of that license. So they probably got hurt worse than anybody the whole
was this?
weekend. The drive-through.
Moonshine drive-through.
Yeah, because at Englefield, when we'd have that, we'd have to have a table and chairs somewhere available. Is there anything else for the chief?
Well, I was gonna ask if there was anything new on either the building or the video and license plate readers for the cars.
The building, you mean for the back? The mayor and I had a discussion, and that's on the back burner for right now. And the other, with the cameras for the cruisers, we're looking at a capital expenditure for 2013. So we've done some more negotiating with Data 911, and we're trying to find any other vendors that have a like technology and setup. So they are on the state contract, but they may be a sole source provider as well, because it's pretty snazzy what they're offering.
The component system sounds really fantastic.
Yeah, it is, and as I've expressed to the mayor, if I had my druthers, I'd like to stay with them anyway. I mean, those things are, let's see, 8 years old. That's pretty, for a mobile computer, that's a pretty good lifespan.
Yeah, I've read a little bit about them, and they're outstanding.
Yeah.
The other thing I did a little bit of research on with Heath, and your impound lot has done just shy of 15,000 over the last 5 years on average. almost $75,000. And I was gonna suggest that they give you your money for your building and your cameras and let you pay it back out of your budget stabilization fund.
The idea that we kicked around for the cameras in the cars, and also, was it 2 vehicles with the license plate readers? I think that's what Lieutenant Mason and I talked about. Was to have, right now we got about $60,000 in that law enforcement trust fund, which is where the money for the impound lot sales go to, the part that goes to the police department.
Right.
So Keith and I had discussed with Lieutenant Mason the idea of, and I want to say probably within a few $1,000s either way, it was about 90,000 is what the price was for the package that we were looking at. So what we had discussed with him was to take 30,000 out of the trust fund, basically is put a third of it down at the time of purchase, and then over 3 years pay off and it worked out to about $18,000 or $19,000 a year or something like that, I thought it was. And coming from that same fund, so that as the impound lot sales are occurring and the money's going into that fund, then those payments each year would go out on the system. We'd have them paid off in 3 years, and I think Keith made an interesting point. There's the potential for the number of cars that we impound to increase if we have the license plate readers and can more easily identify vehicles that should be taken off of the road for whatever reason.
It will expand exponentially.
So that's why we felt comfortable with the idea of having that arrangement, because there's going to be money coming into that account as money would be going out, over the next 3 years on it. So Lieutenant Mason, I think, is doing a good job of working with the vendor that we're talking about here. I'm also trying to see if there's anybody else out there that has a similar type of system where we can try to compare apples to apples. But I think Chief Shepherd's right to feedback that I've gotten from Lieutenant Mason is that might be difficult to do, just because of the tools this particular vendor has been able to develop. You might not get an apples to apples comparison.
Sounds like it's pretty.
The trust fund has, just a point, $62,715.44.
And your budget stabilization fund is sitting where now? I thought Keith said over $1 million.
Hey, how much a card is
Budget stabilization is
It's about 90,000.
Keith was
Six of them. And two of them.
Two of them would have the license plate
Yeah,
readers.
the license.
So those would be one. See, the thing that's kind of the thing that's kind of attractive, particularly about this system, is that it's got all these components. I mean, you can kind of plug one in, take one out if you don't want it. We can with this system that Data 911, right, is the name of the company. We can kind of make it the way we want it to utilize the tools that we want to utilize, not purchase the tools that we don't think will be of benefit to us. So we can kind of customize it a little bit in that way. You've got these components that kind of plug and work with each other fairly well, I think. So it we saw Lieutenant Mason had I don't know if he still has it. He had a sample of one from the company that Keith and I were able to look at the image that comes from the front viewing camera, look at the image that comes from the back viewing camera. I think it would be helpful in a number of areas.
The total cost is $90,000 would equip all the cruisers with the cameras and then
Six.
Yeah,
the two
six
license
of the
readers.
cruisers would have the forward-looking,
Okay.
backward-looking cameras, would have the mobile, it had the audio things.
Yep.
They could start the recording remotely, and then that would also be, then 2 of the cruisers would have the license plate readers. I think all 6 of them would have the capability of a wireless upload so like, let's say when they pulled into the parking lot, it would connect with our server, and the upload of the information would begin
Right on the desk.
automatically. Yeah.
System.
And then it would be able, like I said, you can start the recording from the car, or you could start the recording from your mobile thing. If you're going in and dealing with, let's say you're going into a house to deal with a domestic, you could just record the audio
Right.
if you wanted to, so that it could be used as evidence in any kind of a potential case or something like that. So those were, I think, all the features basically that we were looking at.
Yeah, and I think that included the streaming video too.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, yeah. To be able, so that our dispatchers
Right.
would be able to
Be
see
able to
what's.
see what's going on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you can watch live.
Yeah.
I think you can only watch that effect because of the bandwidth.
Can't get no picture in a picture.
Yeah, I'm sure I'll be next.
Is there anything else for the chief?
If I may, who carried the insurance on the boat part? Was there any insurance?
On the cruise,
The event?
well, there's no sanctioning body for that cruise.
'Cause, where I'm coming from, it's great for the city, but that was our wake-up call.
Oh, well,
Lucky that girl didn't get killed.
yeah, we're lucky every year.
I know, but I mean, that's part of my job to point out, some issues and.
I would assume it would be the individual's auto insurance that would be responsible if he were to cause a fatality on the road.
It would not come back, I don't think. Maybe
Is that
not.
something?
Maybe the
has
law
director
director
ever
ought to
said?
check into it.
Well,
The law director indicated that we had no issue with putting bleachers in front of the building.
We've had so many good years, but, it's just getting closer.
And I think
Pebble and
But it's
blaming somebody.
It's a highway, and we can't deny anyone from using it.
You can deny them from doing burnouts.
Well,
drag
that's
race
enough.
service.
We've got 450.
450.
I'm just
to
pointing
write
out,
citations.
Yeah.
It's just.
Well, that's how
It's
this
a
whole thing
liability.
started, back when Water Cutter was on. And either it was as I was coming on, or it was like the year before that brought that up, because when we started patrolling, because of the accident out in the Midwest somewhere where the girl got
Tennessee.
Where
killed.
it got, yeah, where the car got away from it.
Yeah, and at least the girl got killed, and that was how we started actually, I think, patrolling more, wasn't it?
No, that year, there was actually about 7 or 8 people killed. It was a professional race car,
Oh, that's right.
and
Yeah, that's
they
right.
had it on the street for some kind of charity event, and I think the throttle stuck, and he bowled into the crowd and killed 7 or 8 of them. And that same summer, we had one in Ohio, but it was only one person. It didn't make the headlines like the one in Tennessee. And that's when I bought or rented those huge digital signs, and I forget the verbiage I used, but burnouts would not be tolerated. And we advertised called the owner of Mopar Nationals and asked them to put on their website that we would have a 0 tolerance because of what happened in Tennessee.
That was Memphis, wasn't it?
Uh,
Knoxville.
yeah.
Knoxville.
Yeah. But, they still did it, I mean, but, you know, just like what we were talking about, all we can do is the best we can. It's when we, show indifference
Yeah.
or don't take action.
Okay.
Just think, meeting adjourned.
They're matched
Now,
out.
so they wide open for liability, that's,
5:55.
but it's good for the city.
And
Speaking of good for the city.
But Chief, let's not leave that point. I don't think we are in the case of legal liability. Like I said, I spoke with our law director prior to the idea of the bleachers being put in front of the building. And he said that there will not be any liability there for the city. So these are people actually sitting on city property. Okay? I don't think there would be any liability to this. Anybody can be sued for anything. All right, you can sue
And
whatever
that's-
for anything.
that's the point.
What I'm talking about is the strength of the case. If the law director's opinion was that having bleachers sitting off, however many feet off the side of the road would not create a liability issue for the city, and certainly a pedestrian who is a foot, I don't know how far, the guy got into the grass, I think, right? So they're
Yeah, oh, yeah.
probably at least a few feet maybe off the edge of the road.
Mhm.
At least it wasn't 12 inches off the edge of the road. Somebody, not on city property being struck by a vehicle being operated in a dangerous manner. It's not our event. It's not, Mopar Super Cruise hosted by the city of Heath. You know what I'm saying? So I just want to make sure that you're clear on what I'm talking
I am
about
clear on that.
liability
And those people
exposure.
sitting in that bleacher, yeah, their liability, that car, I mean, it just seems like common sense or whatever. If that car lost control, went into those bleachers and killed a half a dozen people, they're gonna come after the guy with the car, but they're going after the deep pockets too. I mean, that's just the way the world is. And that's where I think the city would be part of that, especially Kevin Kurgis.
Somebody
like that.
Somebody
Shimper.
crossing the street on December 10th and getting hit by a car could potentially sue the city of Heath. That's why we have insurance. That's why the insurance company handles
Just looking at
cases
the best
and
they can.
claims and
They're matched out there for us.
Mark, let me ask you, are you worried about the fact we have bleachers, or are you worried about the whole event? Or more the bleachers here?
I am worried about the burnouts. I think it's a great event. They can show their cars off or whatever, but when you have police officers standing along the road and they're doing burnouts, you're sanctioning something.
If they don't go and ticket them, is what you're saying. If the police sees them,
You're not-
they should ticket them for
Yeah,
saying,
you can blow smoke any way you want, but when you have officers that are standing there and are not enforcing traffic laws, it's a highway, you're right. And that being said, there are certain Ohio laws that have to be enforced, and if you're standing there and you're not enforcing them, then are we liable? And I'm not trying to,
Oh, I know.
I just.
I can't run that
realize-
fast, Mark.
I'm sorry.
I said I can't run that fast.
And you don't have enough people to run that fast.
no. I mean,
you take
all the guys in our
Tops.
department are on Saturday night. All of them. None of them can take a day off the whole weekend. All right. We got 2 people from Newark. We got 2 people from the Highway Patrol. We got 2 from the county. Of course, the county's got the county fair going on, so they got their own
2 from
thing
Greenville.
that they need to deal with up there. Yeah, 2 from Granville.
Buckeye Lake, Union Township.
So it's all hands on deck for what you can deal with as it is. My idea was twofold in trying to bring it down here, and I want to continue to see the route brought down this way for 2 reasons. Number one, I think it creates a better atmosphere for the out-of-towners that have brought their Mopar cars here, because I know they need a certain amount of space for them to run so that their engines don't overheat. And the idea of being in bumper-to-bumper traffic from light to light to light to light, that's not good on their cars. So it's not good for them in trying to cruise. I don't care so much about the kid from Podunk, wherever, in a souped-up Honda Civic. I'm talking more about the people that, come from all over the country for this event that we're hosting. And then
Chrysler products.
the other thing is that I think having it down in this area where you have more wide open space provides a safer atmosphere for those people who do want to watch it. Instead of being piled up in the Southgate area, Hebron Road on both sides, where you're 6 inches off the white line of the road because there's so many people that are there, or because you're dumb enough to stand there. That's not as safe as an environment as if you're in here in the bleachers, or if you're over there in the grass, or if you're down Central Parkway on the grassy sides of the road there that's up above the side of the road. I mean, when you look at this route that we suggested for the cruisers this year, I think it creates a more safe environment. So we want it to be, if it's going to happen, we want to try to manage it and have it be as safe as we can. And those were the two primary reasons why this more southerly route was suggested. I think we need to suggest it again, and I think we need to try to do, working with the property owner of Southgate and the other property owners more farther north, I think we need to work better with them to get them to work with us so that people can't be there to watch it. Because it's a chicken or the egg kind of thing. They're going to cruise where the people are watching. The people are going to watch where the cars are cruising. That's the way it is. So if we can provide a better route for the cruisers down here, while at the same time trying to keep from the congregation of people farther up there, I think it has a possibility of establishing it down here, which, as I said, I think is better for everybody. I think it's safer for the spectators, and I think it's better for those guys with these cars so that their engines won't overheat and they can enjoy the cruise more.
Is there any way, Chief, that we could maybe possibly before next year's event send a thing to the guy that runs the thing and say, hey, we hope that you would stress highly that this is the route that.
Well, see, that's the thing, Doug. Nobody runs it. It's not run by anybody. The guys at the track, they got a map of the suggested route. They, I think, had copies of it there at the track. I know they made copies of it available online, because so many of the folks from out of town are online in the blogs and all that. They knew of this, they knew of the construction that was going on out there. They knew of the suggested route that we had. I think the folks at the track did what they could to help, spread the word that this is the area that we're going to suggest you cruise in.
Any comments from the residents? Because there's more residents down in this route than there is down at the far end.
I got a comment or two, I think, this year, less than I have in the past, from the residents behind the Southgate Shopping Center that see a big increase in the volume of traffic on their streets. Some of them not always obeying the traffic laws, particularly speed. I think for residents just behind Southgate in that area, it can be a headache for that.
I just wondered down here, there's more residents in this area. I didn't know whether there were comments or problems, people going up into the yard.
I did not hear of that from anybody. I didn't get any calls or emails or.
I was telling the mayor, this has got to be the first year I didn't come in on Monday after Mopar and not have a bunch of hate mail. Now, in a day or two, the love mail will come in too, from people who get back home and write to say thank you. And
Just Sunday when I cruised out to church and then drove on out. I thought, a lot more, just seemed
Yeah,
like
I've
a lot
been-
more residents, and I didn't know
Actually,
whether that was a problem or not.
No, most of us want more. Actually, there was a lot of people out here disappointed by the lack and that it actually stayed down here. So,
I'm
no,
not talking
actually,
about the cars, I'm talking about
No,
the
people.
people standing up on the,
yeah, no, I
You
don't
mean they
think,
were disappointed by the fact that there weren't more cruisers
Weren't
down
more
here on the
cruisers,
southern
yes.
part?
And I would suggest that you use James Parkway as your turnaround. Kaiser Light. There's a lot of area out here that people can come to very easily.
yeah, it was on down,
And
the turnaround was on down there to the
At
old.
Tractor Supply.
Yeah,
Tractor
yeah,
Supply.
yeah.
well, see, this way you keep it all on the street.
I don't know how much you've been reading, but I've been following this, some new litigation stuff that, where they're putting the liability more on,
Sorry.
say you or you and your subordinates are along the road, you say, don't come any closer than this, Well, here comes a kid down through there with headsets on, he walks out here in the middle of the road and gets hit, Well, the law is saying now that's more his responsibility, And even in the crosswalks, where they walk out, they got the headsets on, they're playing with their iPods and all this. And a lot of cities are looking at directing more litigation toward them, they're the cause of it, even though like the Pelotonia people, they have guidelines on their route side too, and that guy right out in front of a car, he's going to get killed, And so and then going back to your reason I asked you about your cameras, and does any of you get the Copper Mechanics magazine? I know the one that came out today, it's got some new cameras, and it had one there, and some of the bigger police divisions on Dallas, something, are buying those unmanned planes and using those cameras in those.
All them drones like.
Yeah, there we go.
There we
Yeah, they beat the heat on it. Sky can.
No, it's not fun.
Sky can.
It's amazing what the data is.
It's gonna get worse.
Let's just get him started.
All right, if they're speeding, we fire a Fox 1 sidewinder
Oh,
and blow off.
It's not used
There we go.
Cluster bomb.
Off of Mopar, back last meeting or last week, they brought up about the speed limit on Irving Wick.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I'd
Did I
say
talk
leave it
to
the
you
same,
about
but
that?
did you ever talk to the chief about
I
it?
would too.
I'd leave it alone, I wouldn't mess
Oh,
with
that'd be my recommendation.
it.
I feel the same way.
I just, could you deputize the fire chief to hook up over some of these guys?
He already thinks he is. He's probably got a pistol underneath.
I'm not backing right now, but I do have concealed carry.
Yeah, I think you're right on that speed limit out there. I think that should be left alone.
How about the average speed is 47 miles an hour? You
I,
need 35.
I do. I think
My fear is
42 to 45.
My fear is that if that's the average speed right now, when it's 35, what will the average speed be if the actual permitted
If you put it up
speed
to
is
50.
62.
Maybe 60,
That's not
62.
That's my concern.
Wait till me drive.
My
There's-
concern in that whole area there is lighting and the bicycles traffic that's on there. Because there's a lot of those people who don't have driver's license and they rely on them bicycles or they're walking on the street. And there's not enough room on the side of the road, but there is electricity available out there to increase, get just a couple more lights, I think. Don't you? I mean, you live out that way. Don't you think it needs?
I've had a petition in my hands with 20, 30 petition signatures along through there 4 or 5 years ago for lighting. They were looking for lighting from a security standpoint, from a safety standpoint. They
Is that
don't
when
speed
the
one.
Green Valley and
Green Valley
those areas, people,
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of them don't have driver's
Well,
license.
Well, the residents from like Kruger's property all the way up to Greenbrier. A lot of comments and concerns. So
So what has to,
it was an
what has to
expense.
be done?
It was an expense issue.
Expense.
It was so many $1,000s
Per light.
per light, and it was a budgetary issue.
We need to get to him counting.
I'm trying to
tags
recall
fast.
how much that, I'm trying to recall, and what probably wouldn't be the same type of style. I can't recall how much each traffic light, on 79 was as part of the project. It was
They're
four figure
expensive.
per,
Yeah.
and no doubt about that.
They're probably 10,000 to 15,000 a piece, probably.
They can leave the street lights back to the old color. Save money from, as far as I'm concerned. I got those new yellows and they just, I haven't turned a porch light on
Let's
since I
move
put
on
it in.
and, get the fire, you're up.
Oh, I'm already fired. Did we ever figure out what those boxes were in the center of the
They are not electricity.
compressor or back close?
Yes. Yes.
What was that? Oh, we were just talking the other day,
In the islands,
yeah.
in 79, there's, and they almost look like boxes where you'd have utilities,
Yeah.
like in a neighborhood or whatever, where things are buried underground. But they are, I think those are the locations of the backflow preventers and such for water that's in there. They're not, there's not electricity in there or anything like that.
But for the vegetation that's gonna be planted.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. For the water to that, that's what John Geller told me.
Good. Okay. Fire report, 61 versus 42 last year, 282 versus 224. A lot of that got to do with the storm. But you can see it's up considerably. EMS calls, 195 versus 175 last year. You can see the EMS calls are up 100. Runs, transports, I was surprised how many this time, 117 for the month of July versus 82 the previous year, and you can see it's up about 80.
Wow, that's quite an increase from.
And that one, who knows? It just goes in spurts, Mayor.
Yeah.
No legislation.
We've talked about this before, Chief. I'm just curious. I was interested to read the article that was in the Advocate yesterday regarding the overtime in Newark's fire department. Obviously, they've reduced that. They don't have the minimum manning requirement anymore. And I know that probably more frequently than we would want, they only staff 16 firefighters in a city of 50,000 people or what?
7,000, something like that. Yeah.
Do you have any information that would indicate from through July of this year compared to through July of last year what our mutual aid runs into Newark, what those numbers look at, particularly I think from the EMS side, because Newark's demographics, I'm sure, are probably very similar to ours. Probably most of their runs are EMS related runs, like ours are. Do you, or would you be able to get information that would show the number of runs that our department has had to make into the city of Newark through July of this year compared to through July of last year? Would you also be able to get that same data for Granville Township's department? Because I know Granville Township provides quite a bit of mutual aid to the west side of Newark. Could you ask Chief Hussey to do that?
I can ask Chief Hussey if he'll provide me with those numbers. I don't know why he wouldn't. I don't think County Fire gets into that or whatever. I know that had been requested by another department a year or two ago, and they were reluctant to give that information since it was another fire department asking for an adjoining district's stats.
Yeah, not
So
their
they
own.
didn't-
Not their
and
own,
Should
right?
be, that's correct.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I can get that and have that for you personally, or can report it next.
From
I get every
just
month.
think-
I get a mutual aids given and received. I have to go through and earmark, whether it be Heath or Licking Township, whatever. The runs and the count. I just get numbers. But yes, we can accumulate that. Now that being said about the article sounded really good, but I had given you information in past tense. Newark restructured their response, and they're leaving. Bounce around a little bit. The other day at your father-in-law's funeral, the rescue arrived, and we're waiting. And eventually Medic 3 from the West End showed up. Medic 1 was shut down due to manpower. And that Medic 1 downtown was always their busiest medic unit. And the guys even commented, being the rescue unit, we're the rescue medic or whatever, so there's a delay of at least a transport vehicle. Now, most of them are paramedic, but we are being utilized.
How many people were in the rescue truck that came? Okay, so there's 3 in the rescue truck, and there were what, 2 in the squad?
Yeah, normally they run
Okay.
2-man mode.
So the rescue truck, for those of you who don't know, at my father-in-law's funeral on Thursday, first of all,
Before the
St. Francis de Sales Church got struck by lightning, which delayed the proceedings. My father-in-law would have appreciated that. He liked to play a good practical joke on people. But then toward the end of the funeral mass, there was an individual who I think passed out. Was that what it was?
Just
I mean, it was
lightheaded
behind me.
and ill.
Yeah, and somebody ended up calling 911, and was that you? Okay, and so there was a Newark fire rescue truck that came, and then also a Newark medic that was there. By the time we had processed out, I think both of them were there.
And don't forget Channel 4 with the
Yeah.
TV cameras.
Yeah, they were there talking about the lightning strike or whatever. So anyway,
I'm trying to call 911, and it was again Ben Gelber.
Ben Gelber, yeah.
He came up, he's like, "Chief, can I have an interview?" And it's like, "Wrong chief."
So what you're saying is that there was a fire rescue truck that came from the downtown station there, right? The one just south of
Yes,
the
the
square.
rescue came out of Station 1 downtown.
Okay.
The medic unit assist was out of Station 3.
Okay.
And when they're limited on manpower, the medic 1 gets shut down, and they rely more on the outer units, and that's just their system.
Why
Fire-
do they insist on having a fire rescue truck roll on every EMS call that they get? I don't understand that policy.
3 people on it.
With 3 people on it who couldn't do anything in the case of
Well, I
this
mean,
particular run.
If they're carrying, and a lot of cities run EMS pumpers, medic equipped pumpers, and because they're close sometimes, your units may be at the hospital, but they are paramedics on board that carry drugs, a defibrillator.
I guess what I'm wondering is, in the case of this particular run that we're talking about, it would have been more beneficial for those 3 guys to have hopped in the squad in Station 1 than it was for them to have hopped in the rescue truck in Station 1 while they waited for the squad from the West End station to come. Am I right?
No, that's a policy you'd have.
I know.
I know,
That's with them.
in the perfect world,
I know.
but yeah, I don't know whether the squad.
Where did you go thinking logically?
I
But you know, that's
And I can-
their whole system has changed, and they're relying more. And I showed you some of the letter and things that I know. There was Laura I wrote a long time ago. They're leaving. They've decided that their EMS units aren't that valuable on fires, even though they used to cross-man. They pull the extra people off of their EMS units to fight fire. Instead, they leave them sitting in quarters many times, and they call us in Granville, Madison, and their township, and pull us into the city to make up their manpower differences. They leave the EMS units in quarters because they're more likely to have EMS runs, and EMS runs generate funds. And I mean, that's been given to us in black and white, I mean, Chief Decker and such. So that's how they have gone around and overcome, but they're pulling resources. I mean, you know, mutual aid has worked out well for Newark and Heath. We play well.
And that's kind of, Chief, that's kind of the thinking that, and I don't know what the data's gonna show, so I'm not drawing any conclusions, right?
We just have to wait till we
I-
get the figures.
Yeah, there is the potential that, you know, I saw that Newark's saving this amount in overtime costs. I saw that they hired
Their
3 new
wages.
firefighters. So when I did the math, in total, Newark's saving a little over $44,000 a year compared to last year, and that's great for them. But
that's good.
But they're pulling
what I
it for
don't
us.
want is for that to be causing a strain on our forces in the area of
For them.
mutual aid. I mean, this is something, because it's our squad that runs, which means it's the wear and tear on our equipment, it's our personnel, depending on what time of day it is, they're not, you know, getting rest or whatever and ready to deal with our citizens' needs. You see what I'm saying?
Oh,
And I'm
understand, and
I'm not drawing any conclusions before I see the data, but that's why I want to see the data, because I don't want a situation like that to be the case. And if that situation is playing out, then I need to have some conversations with other officials in the area to discuss the concern.
understand.
Okay.
Now, that's
Can you work on that for us?
Yes.
Okay.
I have several
want that
things.
from July of 2011 to July of 2012.
Yeah, I just figured that would be the information that Chief Huggins would be able to get his hands on if he can. So.
Are there any other perimeter fire departments that you didn't mention that we should
Does
consider?
Hanover respond?
Oh,
To East End?
Hanover, all surrounding departments at one time or another, if we're tied up, it's either on a structure fire. If we're tied up, or we don't empty the city. In most cases, I can't say it never happens, but we always try to keep something back. If we got a medic tied up, well, we've only got 5 people on duty. So if there's a medic tied up, we're not gonna send a 3-man, and NERC calls for an engine, we just tell them to replace us on the card. And they stay in the city, and it may be,
Somebody else will get picked.
usually Granville's rolling their ladder truck.
So in there.
That's just the way Newark's got it set up. They call us for an engine, and it bumps to either Madison Township or Newark Township, depending on
Yeah.
Where it's
the
at.
location.
Yeah.
Proximity.
Yeah.
So
So you'd
Was
have.
there a thing about a card system that was used?
yeah, the run cards, and I mean, this is all spelled out. If, you know, if the fire is at this location, you're gonna get equipment, and it's contingent upon so many medics, or excuse me, not as much medics as pumpers, ladder, and
So
such.
like what
If it's
Jeff's
commercial-
talking. So like what Jeff's talking about though is. So we would be basically the closest department to their south. Granville Township would be to their west. Newark Township would be to their north.
That's
And it would be Hanover to their east, right?
Madison
Is there anybody
Township?
else we're missing?
Madison
Madison.
or Hanover.
Hanover.
Normally Madison first.
Okay.
And part of that, I mean, they are closer in proximity,
Uh-huh.
not to mention Assistant Chief Decker runs with Madison Township, so.
Oh, okay.
And his brother is chief of Madison, and they've always
Okay.
had a good working relationship with the city.
Okay.
So Madison and you know, of course, Hanover implemented part-timers first, then Madison came along. Newark Township in the last couple of years has got part-timers during the daytime. That makes all the difference in the world as far as a quick response. So you're more inclined to call those departments. But Newton Township sometimes, if Newark Township's out on a run, Newton may get called for an assistant to the city of Newark.
What is like Hebron on the run card?
For us or for the city of
For
Newark?
Newark. I mean, they're
Hebron
fairly,
wouldn't get called too often.
okay. So he can get a
Not that
real,
it doesn't happen, but they're just so much further south and
all I'm saying is to get the proper sampling, to do a proper analysis. You're after, I know what you're after, for whose expense is their gain on the perimeter fire departments.
Yeah.
Let's get as many as we can.
Yeah. That's the idea.
All right, next.
Thanks, Chief.
oh no, thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, friend.
He didn't have anything to do anyway, did he? No.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's right after I get that secretary. Okay, well anyway, good on the transports, monthly expenses, wages were $65,791 for July this year. Overtime was $25,539 for the month. Total for the year $136,363. $25,539. If you'll make a correction, because I had 27, but I got these hot off the press from Debbie.
539.
25,539.27.
That's for July
That
12th.
is for July 2012. And that number's gonna change dramatically.
Total for the year was
136,363.12. That number should be correct on all the number sheets. Compared to the wage in 2011 was 64,861. Checking with Debbie, I know you'd asked last month, Mary, and that $1,000 difference, whatever was done.
It was a
correct.
big difference. Yeah, there was something.
And that was a typo on my part. I looked at the numbers.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the $1,000 difference is Doug Brown's
Yeah.
elevated salary.
Yep.
Salary, not celery.
Yeah.
Elevated salaries, can you put that high?
It's okay, I'm not sure.
Salary on the top.
Poor Mountain Dew. But July overtime, 18,203.55, so there was an increase, and a total of 112,990, about 113,000 last year. And of course, last year was one of our lowest years we've had in quite a while, so you can see a difference. Tower 10, under equipment, Tower 10 had its air conditioning fixed today, actually, out at McDonald's garage. Station 2 is waiting for good electric. We're on the schedule, but to rewire, and they'll have something. That generator isn't big enough to handle everything. They're going to put a box in, which is going to either eliminate the compressor, breathing air compressor to run the air conditioning, and one will have to be off, kind of like they do with generators and such, lockout type deal. So that'll be done down the road. And all of our ladders were tested recently, and these are things that are required annually for NFPA. We use Con-Am out here. What do they call it now?
Mistrust.
I'm sorry?
Mistrust. MISTRAS.
So anyway, we always use the local people when we can. Personnel, Jeff Davis, he was been with us for quite a few years, and was my lead fire inspector, has resigned. He had indicated quite a while back that, you know, he was tired of working the 24s, he wanted to spend more time at home, was looking for a 40-hour week and such. He was given a job he'd applied for, and received a job at the state fire marshal's office, and will have a region that he will be several county. He's a designated fire inspector. So he is gone and left pretty quick. So we are one slot open right now, and kind of, I won't say scrambling, but we need to talk after the meeting if we can about some things, but we're gonna try to fill that as quickly as we can.
Okay.
Is that the same kind of job that Bacher went to years ago?
Yes, same place.
Right?
Yeah, since then Jeff is an assistant chief overseeing multiple county and inspectors or whatever. And Jeff's just gonna be Rich Vance out here. I think you know Rich. He has several counties, and Jeff's gonna take several counties in this region to split it up. Rich had been given a couple additional counties because they were shy, and I think there's still a couple openings. But, so that's where he's at. Are you hot?
I'm hot. Million degrees.
Okay. Yeah, I usually sweat like a pig. But Gregory and Kozlowski are both, Gregory leaves next shift, going in for knee surgery. And that's a projected 3 weeks is what the doctor told him. And I think that's pretty, I just don't think that's realistic.
Arthroscopic.
Arthroscopic, I think it's, I think it.
Depending on the extent of the damage that they see when they're actually in, that could very well be it. You know, we had I guess I probably shouldn't name the name. We had an individual in the police department that had shoulder surgery, and they thought when he went under, he thought it was going to be one time frame. When they actually got in and saw the damage with their eyes, it ended up being an entirely different time frame. Depending on what they see when they actually get in, 3 weeks could be realistic.
Yeah.
Let's hope.
I've had two.
I hope
Yeah,
for
like I
their
said,
sake,
it's
and
just going to depend on what they see.
running around the station. We don't have light duty because we don't have the people to do that, but
I had those knees done, arthroscopic, and I feel 3 weeks. Well,
you jumping in and out of a drum.
yeah, I do.
I mean,
I think I could.
Okay.
I mean, that's with me because it wasn't real bad. But like the mayor says, if they get in there and it's tore up worse than what they thought, then it might take him a little longer.
Okay. And then Kozlowski's going in September, and he has some abdominal surgery, one surgery, and then they've got 2 weeks later going into some more repair abdominal surgery, and so he's going to be off for a considerable amount of time. Be determined for that. So, let's see, other good news. Training, we're gonna do some auto extrication training.
Are you going to have Cos do any maintenance on the vehicles before he goes on leave? Any of the routine maintenance that he normally does? We're going to try to.
He's been doing that all along.
I know, that's what I mean. But are we going to try to emphasize him doing some things before he goes on leave? Because he saves us a lot of money.
Yeah.
We'll do-
He stays up. He stays
And what I'm
up
thinking
pretty
is
good
if there's something that
he's right on top of it though, Mayor.
what I'm thinking is if there's something where, you know, hey, in another 500 miles, this is going to have to be done, and you know you're going to put those 500 miles on in 2 weeks, can he do it before he leaves? Because, you know, rather than us having to then send it off somewhere while he's out recovering. You know what I'm saying?
Understand. And that being said, it's only as good as a quiet day.
Yeah.
If we're running auto accidents and fires and things, he's on the
Yeah.
first out engine or whatever, and so his maintenance goes,
Yeah.
stops right there. So,
Yeah, I know.
I mean, that's, other than bringing him in, and then there's the increased cost, bringing him in on an off day, while he's still healthy before that.
Yeah.
You just never know.
Yeah.
We fly with the seat of our pants
I know.
so often.
I know.
Okay.
I'm just trying to think of stuff.
I know what you're trying to do, and we'll do the best we can with that. Thank you. Going to do auto extrication at Jay's. Going to bring in one of there's a gentleman that teaches altering vehicle rescue, search and rescue out of Hocking College, and he's taking one of our female firefighters and going to come in and do a class for our people. We're still doing a little training in the 4-H reserve and preparing ourselves for some things some interesting things with the communications.
That's where this class will be?
Yeah, it'll be here locally.
Speaking of hockey, did you get your diploma?
Yes, I did.
Supposed to have it.
And I'm getting letters, they're calling me an alumni too.
That's right. Time to donate money.
Yeah,
I know.
if you want your donation.
It won't take them long to put me on the other list. But yes, I did.
The Chief, speaking of the 4-H Preserve, and I know Chief Shepherd, you were involved also. What was it, a couple of months ago or so, we had a conversation with the folks from Bike Doctor, the one, some that do some mountain biking back in there. I think we had discussed it maybe, because there was an incident that happened back in the 4-H Preserve 2 or 3 months ago with
Yes.
an individual getting hurt. And we discussed it in this committee, but I don't think we've discussed it since. How have things gone as far as working with John and Eddie and with those individuals who ride, as far as trying to, we were trying to like map the routes and get landmarks or name locations that would make things easier for.
No, I did. John Groff asked if Eddie could use the police 4-wheeler, and I said, of course, and he's not asked.
Okay.
And on top of it, we did take and we used my 4-wheeler and took Eddie and he and the gentleman from
Bike
the
Doctor.
bike doctor.
Yeah.
Brought bicycles. Eddie had a unit. We had that couple $1,000. I had my GPS, couple $1,000 GPS that tracks every 50 feet or whatever, and we went down into the 4-H Reserve. I had John Groff with me. The foliage was so dense we could not get satellite signals down in that area.
Okay.
And we'd hit an open spot and get several satellites, but as soon as you get down on the trails again, the trails were so narrow and it's pretty rough terrain actually.
Yeah, it
to
is.
get over there. My Ranger wouldn't navigate the areas, so we decided that we could not, with our topo maps and things, could not plot that out in those trails until late fall.
Okay.
When the foliage disappears.
Yeah.
So that's where we're at on that one, and we'll get back with the bike doctor people and such, but we, about 3 Wednesdays ago, went back in there. We had a victim down in one of the ravines, and we've been trained a little bit with a cadaver dog too, Dick Dunsford. We've met him before.
Yep.
And he did a pretty good job, but we're perfecting our method. Our radios don't function very well with, and we're gonna end up having to put somebody down on Licking View or in the Glenwood condominium areas actually to kind of repeat some of what happens down in the bottoms area. If you're running a command post up off of Laurel Oaks,
Yeah.
in that area, the signals are interrupted due to foliage and things, and so we're just perfecting, but we've had the Polaris down there and foot searches and split up into teams, and we're gonna get some night glow sticks and some things like that where, and outfitting the Polaris with a little bit more things because there's so many logs and things. Now we're not cutting paths or whatever, but just to open up, and the bicycle people have been down in there and have moved a lot of wood that was down,
Okay.
trees and such, to open up their trails.
Uh-huh.
So anyway, it's a work in progress, but it's gonna be fall before we can do what we were talking about.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
So, training wise, last but not least, ethanol safety. It is a free class. It's in Defiance, Ohio. Cause and Swick are on duty that day. They'd asked to attend that, and so they are going to be going on the 29th. They'll just leave early the morning of their shift, so there'll be a little bit of overtime involved. But we have a lot of ethanol transported in tankers here, and it's a little different firefighting techniques and such with the foam concentrates and things when you're dealing with pure ethanol. And so anyway, you've got to get some of these guys when I'm gone. Earl Miller's the only one now that's been to some of these specialty schools. get a few more trained and up to speed on that stuff. Because, we have, last. stats
Ralph's
I
on
had-
Earl's team, right?
I'm sorry?
Ralph is on
No.
Earl's unit.
No, actually Ralph works 1 unit, Earl's on 3 units.
Oh,
Kozlowski and Greg Coyle and Ralph Swick is Bob Kozlowski's lieutenant.
okay, okay. So, but there's nobody then on McCord's unit, right? That has training on this. Earl has it-
Other than what I have given them,
Okay.
and I mean, we have trained on some of this stuff, but things are changing. From the time I went to Texas, as far as dealing with large storage tank fires and things, techniques, and a lot of this comes right from Williams Hazard Control used to, but their firefighting techniques have changed quite differently or whatever.
I'm just thinking about having somebody on his unit, on McCord's unit that's trained.
Right, but when they come back with the latest, greatest information, they can relay some of that information
Okay.
to people or whatever. But yeah, Jeff.
You mentioned training. Let me back up here. Mr. Davis has got a lot of training that we're losing as the inspections. Do we have ample people to replace him? 1 and 2, do we need to ramp up whatever his inspection training technique and expertise has?
We have,
Or do you have multiple people that
yes,
do the same
I have.
thing? He was just
I have some
targeted.
really seasoned, and we have fire inspectors on all 3 shifts. And I mean, that's how we do it. We don't have a designated, we never had the manpower. In the perfect world, I would have had Mr. Davis or someone like him on a 40-hour that could be dedicated to doing inspections. And part of the problem when you use on-duty people, they're out doing an inspection and we get a run. And you gotta pull that manpower away from that inspection, and it just,
Wasn't he your top
Doug-
guy?
Doug Brown was on Jeff Davis's crew, and Doug's certified in inspections, and I think is looking forward to the opportunity to do more of them. So
Yeah.
So he's carrying the
His-
same certifications that
yes,
Davis
he has a
was
fire
doing?
inspector and.
he had him when
we
we
had.
hired him, right?
That's correct, yeah. So, yeah, we've got about 6 additional inspectors on the department.
Good.
So,
Very nice.
and our next, yes, he is, yeah. And we recently sent him to a fire investigator school too. He's really interested in that and would like to do that more. So anyway, that being said, old business, got a PO in, checked my mailbox tonight. This is money out of this year's budget, whatever, replacing 2 computers that will go in line with, we want to get 2 new computers to, one at both stations to handle the new software. Okay? Quick, give me some bags. Oh. So, Warren had asked that we replace those 2 older computers. So we've got some put high speed, the new software on.
These are the tough books.
So no, this is actually desktop.
PCs? Okay.
Right. And with this new system, there will be, you always say save some money, but, we currently have double servers, but with the new software, we are not gonna rely on the servers as much because the data will be stored someplace else. So, under new business,
Just a quick question.
yes.
You do have backup on everything, right? You do backup.
We currently do have tape backup or whatever, and I'm not sure exactly how that this new system, because they retain basically all the files and things. I mean, and that scares me, and I know my guys give me heck sometimes because everybody wants to go paperless. Let's go paperless. Well, I know those hard copies that I make them download, and every run we make, there's files. Jeff Crable takes, or Ryan Crable actually is takes care of our filing and stuff for that, on those runs, and, we have hard copies for all that, and when the computers have gone down before, you can go pull that hard copy, and then I'm a firm believer, and sometimes you don't put all your eggs in one basket. So, anyway, that being said, we still have tape backup on our existing system.
Pardon me?
I said we still have tape backup on our existing systems, yeah. New business, just the AFG, the Assistance to Firefighter Grant, we resubmitted for this year's cycle period. You know, they ran out of money last year. We turned in the same stuff. We still felt like we possibly could have got it if they hadn't run out of money, because it met the criteria. But we're trying again for self-contained breathing apparatus and the SAFER grant. We have not heard one way or the other whether we got it, but the cycle came and went for this year's, and we applied for 3 additional firefighters. Of course, they would pick up same standards as before.
So have they not made the decisions on this yet, or just?
They were, you know, 2011 came and went, and they sat on it for such a long time in 2011 before they started awarding things that, you know, they're making awards, and there were a lot of big awards. And of course, with the AFG grant, they just flat ran out of the money that they had earmarked.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure if they, because Granville just recently, if you read the paper, were awarded a SAFER grant based on last time. So
yeah.
I don't know how long until this closes out. So there's always that possibility. I'm not sure right now
Just
when it ends, but,
you don't know
but
where
we
we're
did
at.
resubmit paperwork for this cycle period and go from there. Equipment building repair accounts, stating over budget for the year, and I've got some of this money tied up in blanket accounts, but I'm showing, according to my records and what Linda ran me today, I'm about $500 over budget on my building maintenance fund. But we had air conditioners go out, I had to replace condensers and a lot of different things. $4,500 at the beginning of the year for the radiant heat in the apparatus bays when it was cold. You know, I've got a budget of let's see.
Gee, you want heat when it's cold? You want cold
Stand
when it's hot?
correctly.
My goodness.
I'm sorry, what was that?
Said you want heat when it's cold? You want cold when it's hot?
I stand corrected. You know, it's a $17,000 a year budget for both stations and such. I've still 500 to the good in my building repair account. I'm 500 in the hole for my truck and maintenance, and that's anything that we do beyond. That's a $20,000 annual budget.
So this isn't the equipment and building repair account you're over on, it's the truck repair account.
Well, it's equipment. It spells it,
repair.
equipment and maintenance.
Oh, okay.
And then there's two different numbers, Mayor, in the line item budgeting. One is strictly building maintenance, how it's earmarked. The other is equipment and repair. And it's a 5300 series, and that means that it's work done by somebody else other than Kozlowski.
You're under 500 in the building.
In the building account, and yeah. So that just means right now I'm going to be robbing Peter to pay Paul or whatever, but I'm just giving you a heads up. It's just this has been a awfully bad year. Things breaking and
You want payroll deduction?
I'm sorry?
You want it on payroll deduction?
I just they'll try to spend our money wisely, but there's sometimes, and as the buildings get older and things, you know, there's going to be furnaces and HVAC and things like that that are eventually going to wear out and need to be replaced. I like the old money too.
So are you 500 over and 500 under just to this point, or is that the whole budget for the entire year?
That's the whole budget for the entire year.
So anything that you have expenses from this point on, you're going
That's
to be going
correct.
further in the red, okay?
Okay.
So it's going to require the payroll deduction. Make it easy.
sorry. And we did get a $2,500 state equipment grant from the Division of EMS. Remember, we got one last year that paid for a portion of the tough book, and Warren submitted the paperwork, and we got another $2,500. It can be spent on training, equipment, and such, so. But that, and those go in annual cycles, whatever, we've got probably till spring of next year to spend that money. So.
It's for training and.
It's just an EMS grant, and it can be used for multiple things, towards several things. They go to truck maintenance.
I was gonna say, how about building maintenance? How about some of these shortages we got here?
Other than that, that is all I have. Any questions?
Okay, we'll adjourn at,
Thank you.
I'll put this on Keith's desk. Finance committee next week.
Okay.
Any pull with the heater? I mean, I know them. I don't know, what the hell is.
Just so you know, I'm not cooking tomorrow night either, so.
Yeah.
What's
Another
this?
benefit for our puppies
Oh!
at Texas.
Steak this time.
I'm not cooking tomorrow night either, so. Here, Tim.
Yeah, if you guys talk